Yo, this is In
Facts
Chats, and we are in our home, which is the Qube. It's London home for creators. It's for podcasters, artists, musicians, producers, all of that. It's all about recording your art and getting paid for it.
Ooh. And if you want a free month at the Qube, all you have to do is visit theqube.com, QUBE.com. You'll see that down below, and enter In Facts into the referral field, and you'll get your first month for free.
Cool, yeah. Sweet. Enjoy that. Bon appetit.
My intuition's telling me I never listen to myself. I should probably listen to myself. That position I was in, if I'd have listened, maybe I could help.
She's in sync. All right, here we are. Here we are. You're listening to In
Facts.
Chats.
And I am Lemzi, that's Lemzi, the Gemini.
And I am Amelia Poamz. No, Poamz, the Pisces. It's been a minute.
Flow, man, innit? Catch the flow. Yeah, man. Yeah, okay. Nah, it's good to be back. It's good to be back in the hot seat. But
yeah, wait, we haven't really taken a break. No one knows that we took a break, bro.
True.
What are you
Well,
talking
no
about?
one knows. Yeah,
What are you talking about? We've been here. In
Working
the same
hard.
seat. Yeah.
every week,
Yeah.
active. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's kick it off.
Even though we have told them before that it's...
What?
What?
Huh?
Anyway,
bro,
so yeah.
How are you? Really?
I'm very...
Feel? I'm very feel.
I'm very feel. I'm very feel. No, I'm good, you know. I'm good. Off the back of our last Unpacked, there was something that, you know, brought up. And I was like, ooh, should we get into it? I'm not sure because I don't know what it's gonna look like. Yeah. And the song Finesse. That's in my head now, man.
Finesse.
Yeah, man. So with TopBoy,
Yeah.
I was hoping that I was gonna have a lovely cameo. Episode 6. I'm not gonna spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen it, but the beginning of that episode, I'll say there's a rap battle. That doesn't spoil anything that happens in the storyline at all, innit? And back in November 2020, me and another artist called Leisha, she's actually been on our podcast,
Yeah,
actually.
she
Yeah,
has.
of course. We did a whole day of filming. The whole crowd was there. We're going back to back, just saying bare lines. She cussed me out so many times, and fair to play to her as well. She actually won the battle as well, innit?
Okay, yeah. Well, was that scripted in or she just generally won?
It was No. Do you know what? It was scripted in, but when I first met her, so like the day before, they were like, okay, cool, this is Leisha who you're going to be battling, She'd done her Googles and everything, you know? She
like with Mope, the battle rap.
yeah, like
okay.
she'd gone through my Insta, and she's like, cool, I'm going to say this, I'm going to mention these clothes, I was like, well, I've come here with just my ordinary grind bars from back in the day, so I had to write something, memorize it, 24 hours kind of thing. But anyway, we do this day of shooting, beautiful, wonderful, and we're both gassed, like, yo, we're gonna be in Top Boy, innit?
Yeah.
And they said, don't tell anyone because, you know,
You're not gonna be
yeah,
there.
innit? Yeah, don't tell anyone. I thought, okay, I can keep it stum. I told you, fam, couple other people, whatever. Now, as I'm watching, actually, no, even before I watched, Bliss, who's in there, who does his battle, he DMs me like, yo, my bro, where's your battle? When's it coming out? Because they got mine, it looks great. And
Wow, he actually came to just rub salt in the wound.
I was thinking, Bliss, you know that mine's not in it if you're DMing me, my bro.
Wow.
And when I watched it, I was like, there's a split second. You see my face right in the right-hand corner. Anyone who does watch Top Boy, look out for my face. At like
but you have to literally.
Yeah, you have to literally.
If you blink,
don't go on your phone on that moment, innit? You have to. You have to be paying proper attention, and that's my 0.15 seconds of fame that I got in Top Boy.
And if you hear the energy of how we spoke about it in the last,
I know, like, oh my god!
and let me just say from my perspective, yeah, because obviously I'm gassed now. Yeah, literally, I'm gassed now. I'm gassed now. You've told me you're gonna be a Top Boy. I'm like, oh, let me put my phone on silent. You told me you're gonna be in Top Boy, so I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm literally now watching it with my eyes alert, like, oh, it can pop up at any moment. I see it's that scene now, the battle rapper. I'm like, yeah. And I remember literally just it going.
That went, yeah, and that scene went.
Like, I said, oh no, he's probably gonna come back. And then I saw
you even messaged me like, yeah, like what episode was it again?
And then I saw the storyline moving.
Yeah.
I said, wow, they done Lems like that. And
Finesse.
then and the worst thing is I told my mum, so she kept up to this day she still asks me, where are you in Top Boy?
Oh man. They got me. But this is what happens, isn't it? This is what happens in the movie industry. Yeah.
Editing, innit? And it's just, yeah. It is what it is, man.
It is, yeah.
You got your money. You got paid.
Got paid. Had a good day. That was cool.
Exactly.
Top Boy's a great series as well. So yeah. Can't complain.
Yeah, it's okay. So you're feeling finessed.
Yeah. I was. When I watched it, I thought, I really couldn't just give me, just the face. Even if it didn't have my voice or Alicia's voice, just our faces in it. Like, we're there. Something happened in it, but we move.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
We move. It's okay.
It's okay because I believe you that you were actually in it.
Yeah. See, now in it. Now there's gonna be questions like,
I believe you.
Bruh.
Yeah. Because I mean, that quick clip might not have been you. I believe you in it.
I can get the screenshot that my dad got. He's like, no, I have to make sure in it. Like, just make sure that's you.
Got receipts. No, yeah.
He wasn't gonna let it slide.
But it's okay. No. It's cool. It's cool.
But aside from that, I'm wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
You're just not that top boy.
Yeah. Don't watch that now.
You're the boy in the corner. You're the boy in the side of the screen.
I can't even say anything bad about him.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. And how are you, Amelia? Really?
I'm good, I'm very good. I'm heartbroken because I'm not with Simon from Bridgerton.
God.
And before Simon from Bridgerton, I'm not with Kano, Sully from Top Boy. I'm just tired of all these men that got away.
What? They were on the list, didn't it?
I'm actually just tired. I'm actually tired of falling in love with characters that are not real. Actually, I'm going to say this. Firstly, everyone needs to just move away from Sully. Can everyone stop proclaiming their love? Just piss off.
For Sully?
Yeah, Kano.
Just or Sully?
Stop it.
Who you in love with?
Whoever it is. They both look the same. I'll have them both. Just stop it. Everyone's making all these TikToks talking about. No, just piss off because you weren't with him shooting in the gym. I was with Kano shooting in the gym.
From Brown Eyes days.
I was from Brown Eyes days, from P's and Q's. So piss off. And then I watched Bridgerton, the first season, yesterday. Binge watched that. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, the words you use, scandal.
It's scandalous.
And then Simon. Those are the two words you use to try and
scandalous
make
Simon.
me think I should watch it. And I'm like,
it's the lips. Like I was even saying to you in the car here, I really like that area of men.
The lip, chin, mouth area. So
I like
guys,
that area
just make
of
sure
men,
that's tidy when you're chatting to Amelia, and then.
Yeah, I'm looking at that area for many.
Whoa.
Let me not do you, yeah. Let me not do you. This is PG. This is family.
Yeah.
But yeah, Simon. Actually, I think his real name is Reggie.
Reggie, if you're listening, Reggie.
DM me.
Yeah, DM. All right, cool.
I don't know why that's a DM, but yeah, call me. But anyway, yeah. So that's how I feel. I'm not with the love of my life, but it's fine. It's okay because if the world ends in a week, I'm gonna take crack cocaine. So
should we like go into that? Yeah.
Now, do you know what? Let me give people context.
Yeah, why are you even saying that?
I actually feel like the conversations we have when we set up this pod are the conversations that actually need to be recorded. Because I'm not gonna get into it now, but I basically asked everyone what they're gonna do if the world was gonna end.
You would take crack.
No, but I have to give context. I've never taken crack cocaine before. But if the world was going to end in a week, I want to see what the hype is about.
Yeah. Do you know
what I mean?
We actually all basically said that we do everything.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might swim to America at that time, but
looking at you, George, it's like, bro, you're wasting your time, innit?
Let me change my answer. Instead of swimming to America, I wanna bungee jump off the Grand Canyon.
This is just no. Okay. But I hear you. Okay.
Oh, cool, yeah, run that
crack cocaine.
Run that.
While on crack cocaine. Because then that makes a difference. I am really advocating
I was about to say,
I've never taken that. I've never seen that man before. I don't know who he is. Anyway, so we have I think I've lost count of the amount of guests that we've had.
Fifth. Yes, it's our fifth. Correct.
Are you confident with that?
I'm confident. Fifth. Say it with chest.
Okay, yeah, so we have our fifth guest that is joining us today. Obviously, this is the podcast, it's all about creative millennials, and it's about every creative field.
Yes.
And it's not always about
music.
Being the person, let's say, at the front of the scenes. What about the people at the back of the scenes 100%. That are putting it all together? Yeah, so we have a producer / dancer,
Slash doing a lot of stuff just for the city of London.
Yeah. Well, we're going to just talk on some light topics. You know, the whole thing of institutionalized racism. But anyway, so yeah, let's bring to the couch Divya.
Cool. Okay, so happy to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
I made it finally.
Yes.
Yeah. No one knows. It's cool. This is seamless. Everything's been seamless. Obviously we done our
just checking in.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Course, you're about to race ahead,
I was
innit?
gonna do instructions. Yeah, don't get mad at me. Just top way stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Take out you, innit?
Yeah. How are you?
Really?
I'm good. I mean, I'm a little bit unwell today, but I made it because I know I had COVID before. So yeah, we had to reschedule. So this is my second attempt at coming here.
Yeah.
But no, I'm feeling good. It's really nice to like be with everyone, have a good conversation. I'm excited. Yeah, the studio is sick, so
Shout out to the
really
Qube.
nice
Shout out to the Qube.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
And obviously we introduce you as dancer, producer, whatever. How do you like to introduce yourself? I guess when you meet someone in an elevator, maybe do you go, "Hi, How do you introduce yourself?
I'm just Divya. I don't know. I guess like producing, like we were saying about this before, producing is so broad, right? But and I think I've been thinking about this as like the producer is like an artist as well, but also have like my artistic background. So yeah, there's like. I say I'm producer dancer, I guess.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because let's actually talk about like the role of a producer.
Yeah.
And I guess
I'll be real, yeah. Not now obviously, but before, whenever I heard producer, all I thought was music, executive producer, musician, that kind of thing. And then when I started seeing producer, when it came to films, TV, I just conflated producer and director together, and I just thought, oh yeah, there must be the same person who's doing all of this big job and everything. But what is a producer? What is that title?
I think, to be honest, I had the same, like, before I started producing, I didn't really know what producing was either. Because, and I guess, again, everyone always pulls in producer and director, and you think of, like, the producer as this person who has all the money and is like, just making all the decisions. But I guess a producer is basically, like, the person who brings a project from point A to point B. So, like, they're the person who's responsible for managing the budget, or managing like the artists, like recruitment, or basically working with like technical teams and stuff. So it depends because it's so varied. I feel like the producer needs to speak lots of languages and like wear different hats, because you could be doing like, I produce across like festivals, theatre, dance, poetry gigs, music gigs, and at the moment I work for the communities and neighbourhoods team at the Barbican, so I produce like community projects and projects with young people, so it's so varied and like every day is different, but essentially you're like bringing the project together. But I guess it's like, it's not so much being a project manager role, because you have like an artistic lens. I don't know, it's always hard to explain what a producer is, but yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Is it different for if you do something that's like TV film, so it's going to be pre-recorded and then released later, or two, if it is like a live theatre production or a community show or something like that? Is it quite a different role that you have to do for both of them?
Yeah, I think because I guess like with I don't do much TV producing actually, but there's like a mixture of like live event management delivery, and then also like the programming of the work. So like before, so if I was to do, for example, a festival, I would be involved in like curating that whole thing. So like I just did a 5-day film festival called Leytonstone Loves Film in September, and I was in charge of like looking after the program, so commissioning different artists who had their own like micro events across the program, and then also like being in conversation with like the venue managers, and then bringing staff on board, and basically like overseeing all of the elements of production. And I guess it gets a bit confusing as well, because then you also have technical production, which is a different like skill, but a producer is more like the like project manager kind of thing.
Because I think also, especially as like artists, as I said, and yourself being an artist as well, again, I've never really understood what a producer is, also like the need of a producer. If you could kind of like explain the difference between maybe a festival not having a producer and a festival having a producer, like there's a difference that makes is in terms of like, what is that, if we talk about festivals, what does the producer do that is like almost like integral to like why you need producers on these projects?
I don't think you could have a festival without a producer. Because that person is like the glue that holds the whole project together. And like it's difficult for you to have lots of moving parts of a project without that one person being like on top of everything and being able to like oversee all of the elements and tie it in together in like a creative way and making sure that it's responding in the right way to the brief and also like responding in terms of like engaging audiences and stuff. So that person is really like the glue that holds it all together. And you could have like multiple producers on a project, but I do think you do always need that role within it. And I guess where it gets confusing is you can have, so there's different ways a producer can operate. So for example, I've produced my own show and also like been the kind of artistic director of it. So I was the artist and producer in that role. But you can also be producer at a venue, or you could be producer of an artist who goes on tour, and you look at like your role is to like be the manager of that artist and take them to different venues and take their work to different places. So like there's so many different ways a producer can work.
Okay.
Because I feel like, especially like when you are an independent artist, you kind of feel like you have to do all the roles yourself. Especially if you want to organise your own kind of tour, if we're talking about music artists as well.
Admin.
And I think even doing a podcast, having a producer to be like an oversight where, because even right now, mainly me and you, we have to think about the content and like what we're bringing. Like people that are filming it, like New Motion, like, they got to think about actually like filming it and then editing it as well. And to be honest, if we had a producer that can like actually tell us what we're doing, but also like again,
you have a producer on BBC. Sorry,
BBC.
You don't have a producer.
Oh yeah,
that helps you with your shows,
but that's different. That's a radio producer.
Yeah.
So that's now just making sure that the show is going out right, and that it's managing that kind of oversight of the show. If anything goes wrong, like kind of while I guess outside of the studio and outside of me presenting, that they managing that as well. So I guess it's almost like damage control.
Yeah.
And making sure like it sticks to like what it's supposed to be. But then also what I feel again, which you touched on, is like there's the money element of it as well. So isn't it a lot of the time that the producer's dealing with the money, maybe sourcing the funding or who gets paid what? And also like as a producer, do you decide how much you get paid on that? Like how does that work with money and producing?
It depends again. There's no like right answer, because you could have like you could be part of a team where there's like a fundraising manager who is able to like look after the grants and stuff, and you're given the budget and you look after the budget, but they might be the person who sources the money. But in some respects, like when I've freelanced as a producer, I have to like write the application for a grant and then like manage the budget and everything and all of the elements that come into it. And it's like you said, like artists can do that as well, but I think it's a different skill, and it takes the pressure off like from an artist to do that work, because then you don't have to focus on all of the like the things to pull it together. You can just work on your artistry and like the content, like you said. So it's just, and there's things like for example, like even with live event delivery, like there's risk assessment, safeguarding that you've got to do, and like all of those things come into different ways of producing. But it depends on, and it's a lot about relationship building as well, and like building relationships with venues and different artists to bring them in to like collaborate in different ways. So yeah, there's loads of different elements and like moving parts of it that like I don't think I've produced one project that's been the same. All of them have had different moving parts, and it's just how you like shape it.
So you really got to be like a people person to be a producer in a way.
Yeah, and you have to be able to like shape shift almost, like just wear lots of different hats. And like it's about communicating to different teams. Like the technical production team is totally different from how you communicate with the artist, but you have to be able to have that language with both of them and be able to like make everything coherent so that the project can like be seamless almost. Yeah.
And obviously like you're a dancer as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, how was that journey from like essentially dancers are the artists?
Yeah.
So how have you found that in terms of now being, I guess, in the spotlight, the artist, to now working more on the actual projects that are like you're more just overseeing it, where it's not actually about you, it's about someone else? Like, what made you make that decision?
So I did dance at college, and I went to a dance school for a year, and I think I've always had an interest in the production, because like when I used to do shows at college, I would like be interested in the lighting and like the music and how things all come together, and I just like whenever we put on a show, that's something that I'd always be interested in. I actually took a bit of a weird route, and it's interesting because like there's so many different producers, and everyone's route is not linear. Like it's like everyone comes from a different background. Like there's people that would come from like theatre and become a producer, whereas I came from like, I actually did dance at college and uni, and then I decided that I wanted to like move into a different place, and then I ended up doing events management at uni. But I found that, because I think I was like interested in the organising of events and like what that would look like, but what I realised is my degree was like mostly like corporate and commercial events and stuff, which I wasn't interested in, and then I missed like the creative element of it. And I worked at O2 for a year, so I did like all of their corporate events, and then they always hired in external production companies, and they did all the content, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm like really interested in, because I don't want to just oversee the event without any creative control of how it runs. So I think I was interested in production from then, but I didn't know what producing was at that point, and that was obviously like very different way of producing. And then ended up finding like the Battersea Arts Centre's Young Producers Programme, and I just saw the name producing, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to try this out.
How long ago was that?
That was like 27, so I graduated in 2016, and then I did BAC's Young Producers in like early 2017.
You got me to do a Hidden Gems in Battersea, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was through you.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
wow,
in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, ages ago.
Nepotism. Like
Nepotism.
you need a little bit here and there.
I'm always hearing something.
That was really good.
Yeah.
No, it was fun. Yeah, because I was thinking, that sounds so familiar being in Battersea, and obviously, it's for you. Yeah, so thank you.
No worries. So I did that, and then as part of it, we had to produce their festival, Homegrown Festival, which was like a youth takeover of the building, which was like 18 to 25-year-old artists, and it was just really fun, and I felt like I found the thing that like I was really excited about, because I like being a dancer, but also like sometimes there's like a lot of pressure around like that work, and like I think I really struggled with like dance school about like them trying to shape me into the dancer that they wanted me to be, and like I had like a different outlook of like what my artistry should be. So I guess like Can I
ask you for specifics in that? Like, what did they try and shape you into being, and what's more your outlook in terms of how you want to express yourself as a dancer?
I think back when I was at dance school, it was very different from like now, where we've got like Instagram and everything, and also the industry was very different then. So I went to a dance school which was mostly like contemporary and like basically contemporary ballet kind of thing, and that was like the trajectory of what dancers should be. Like the idea was like you go to a dance school, you join a company, and then you perform as part of a company. And at that point, when I was at dance school, it wasn't really seen as like a viable career to go into like hip hop or commercial. Like it wasn't seen as like a proper technique at that point. And I was always interested, like my background was like hip hop dance, so I really struggled with it, because I was like and also like the whole like dance schools are very tough. They really like try and shape you into like it's just very based on what that school like wants you to do, and they really wanted people to be contemporary dancers, and I just wasn't that. And then I just got like all this stuff like, oh, you're just a street dancer, and like you're not gonna be like so it really took its toll on me, like in terms of my confidence, and I didn't think I could be a professional dancer, so I kind of like left that aside and just wanted to like explore something different. Which is interesting, because now like hip hop and commercial dance styles are like very viable. You don't need to technically go to a dance school to train as a dancer and like be professional anymore. Like you could just go to class, and then you can like find your own trajectory to becoming a professional dancer. But back then it was not really, or I guess like I didn't know about the industry in that way, and like I didn't know anyone in my family or friends who had gone into dance, so it was like a bit more difficult for me to navigate, and like I didn't have any mentors or anything like that. So kind of found it hard. And then I found like when I was there, it kind of took the love out of it for me. So I had to just step away from it for a bit, and just like explore another route. But I don't regret it because I still dance now, not professionally, but like I just do it for the love of it rather than like trying to force an outcome. But yeah, I really like producing as well because it uses like a different part of my brain. It's like very like strategic as well, and I get to work with like lots of different artists, not just dancers, which is really exciting. Like get to work with poets and musicians and actors and dancers, like all different types. So it's really fun.
Because it's interesting listening to you say that as well, because I'm interested in the idea of maybe if you had a more positive experience in dance school, whether you would have gone down the route of maybe like exploring producing, or was that also like you trying to take back that power and control there to create the environments where kind of you wish that you were in. So let's just say you're in dance school now and they were very accepting and they celebrated hip-hop dance as well, and it was a lot more inclusive. Do you think you still would have gone down the route of producing?
Probably not. I think I fell
so we have it.
I fell into producing. I found it along the way. I didn't know that was something. I was like, when I stopped dancing, I never thought that I could love something as much as dance. Because when you have like an artistry that you love, like with all your whole heart, it's hard to find or compare anything to that. And like I didn't know I would be able to love anything as much as that. But I actually like really, really enjoy producing. And I feel like I've been able to do a lot with it that I'd never expected. Like, sick. And I've learned even about different like art forms. Like I didn't know I was into like spoken word poetry until I started producing. Even started writing a bit of poetry myself in lockdown. Nice. So like there's like stuff that I've found producing has led me to, which I didn't expect. So I don't regret it. But yeah, maybe if things were different back then I would have continued down the dance route. But it's what it is. Yeah.
Because also...
Go on. Okay. Also.
Because also as well, which I think sometimes informs a lot of us in terms of like the path we go down as well, is like maybe what's culturally accepted, like in our cultures and in our households. Like, and I think for any creative, especially like millennials, we've had to deal with parents that come from a generation that don't really understand that route. They don't understand that career. They don't see it as a way. Like, if anything, parents want you to make a substantial income that you're okay when they're not here anymore. And if you don't have an inheritance or whatever, it's like, God, please don't be a creative. Like, just come and be something where you know you're getting your check at the end of the month. Like, you're good. Did you feel like you had to almost navigate through that as well, or were your family quite accepting or understood that like you can make a life out of dancing? How was that for you?
That was definitely, I had to navigate a lot through that as well. Obviously I'm South Asian, and like it's not really in our community scene to go down a creative career isn't something that's like widely accepted in our community, or it's just like I think our parents, because they came to this country and like they struggled and they had to just find a means to like get money. So, and then also I think in our community, like there's a real push on, they really want us to like stay in education and get something that's like really secure, because they didn't have that level of security when they came to this country. So like I think my family definitely would have preferred if I did something like medicine or law or whatever. And so they didn't I think they knew that I loved dance, but they were scared that it wouldn't provide me with the security that I needed. So there was like a bit less support from that. But interestingly, I think when I went into producing, there was less pushback from that, because they didn't really know what producing was. So they were like, they couldn't really argue it, because they were like, okay, you're doing this thing, but like, I don't understand it, so I'm just going to let you go for it. Which gave me a bit more space to be like, I'm going to do this, and you're not going to say anything. Just give me a few years to like settle myself, and then you'll see. And then I think like once they started seeing that I'm making money from it, they were like, okay, cool.
Once you start seeing the money,
then it changes everything. It's like, oh yeah, you know you're good now.
My daughter's a producer.
She's bringing home the money.
So now they see that you can make a viable career out of a creative thing.
Which is because like there's a lot of when I think about just creative industry, if you think of say BBC Asian Network, for instance, and even the Bollywood industry is huge.
Mm.
Like, do you not think collectively there is this outlook of, oh no, there is definitely viable not institutions, but viable creative routes for people, whether it was music, dance, acting, etc. Like, that didn't ever come up in conversation. Was it specifically because it was dance, or specifically more because it was just a creative thing?
I think, actually, interestingly, I think my parents would have liked if I did. They're always like, you should go do Bollywood, like go to India and do Bollywood.
Right.
And that made sense because like they'd seen like successful Bollywood dancers, or like we knew people in our family who'd done that. But I wasn't interested in that. I did classical Indian dance when I was younger, and I trained in it for years. I did Kathak and I did Bollywood. But because I'd done it from young, and my interest was more in like hip hop music and stuff, so I was always drawn to those styles rather than doing Bollywood so much. And I was also like, I guess this is the thing, I produced an event called Cut the Bakwas, which was like cut the bullshit in Hindi, and it was also about like South Asian artists that represented like a different narrative rather than just, because I think like when we think of South Asian artists, you always think to like Bollywood or Bhangra, and like actually there's like loads of artists doing really cool things that are different. So, and those styles are great too, but I think I just wanted to like explore that there are others out there that are doing different things. So I produced this event at Rich Mix, and that was like really me like coming into my own, and like it was really like a special moment for me because I got to like engage like visual artists and rappers, and we had like a panel discussion with different like South Asian artists, and it was really cool just to like make a space for us, because I don't think there are that many spaces for us, or we're not like, we're such a big community, but like not in the creative industries. I don't think we have that like big mark.
Because I feel like true. In a lot of cultures as well, because if I think about the black community, it's like if you're an artist, it's almost like you have to fit into this kind of box. Like it has to be like hip hop.
Rap.
Do you know, it has to be
R&B.
rap, and then it's harder. Like if you are a black artist, it's like, no, actually, I'm not creating that kind of like. If you think about music, is it similar in the South Asian community where it's like kind of only celebrating one way of being creative, whether it's like Bollywood or Bhangra and whatever? And it's like, is there still those kind of conversations, like you said, of creating this event of like, well, actually, we can celebrate it all, do you know what I mean? And like emerge now, even of like a cross between cultures and stuff like that. What is that conversation currently within the South Asian community?
I don't think I haven't had loads of conversations about it, I don't think, but I think there's like really clear roots. There's really like big Bollywood companies that I know of, and there's like really clear roots into doing that work. But I don't think, like you said, like it's not as clear if you were to go down a different path as an artist. Maybe because we're just not represented so much in that way. But I think it is changing, actually. I think especially through, like, you're seeing like these communities pop up a bit more on social media, and I have seen a change over the past few years. But I think people just need to, it's like being more bold and like in your authenticity, and like just going for what you believe your artistry is.
You see with that, like that, because being bold and like really stepping into what you believe, especially if you don't know what the role is that you're about to do, i.e. you didn't know what a producer was. When you actually got into it, did you ever feel a bit like, oh, maybe I'm not the right person to be doing this? Or was there anything that kind of prohibited you? Did you ever like stop yourself, in fact, from trying to fulfill those kind of roles just because you thought, I don't exactly know what this is. I think this stuff is good and I want to bring forward all the things that I believe, but I'm not quote unquote a producer yet. Maybe there's someone more equipped or more qualified who could do this.
I actually didn't feel like that. So I feel like when I was dancing, I always felt like that. Like I always had like a bit of imposter syndrome, or being like, oh, I don't really fit in this because I don't see the representation. Like I don't see people like me dancing in that way. So I guess maybe with dance, I did feel that way. But funny enough, when I started producing, the moment when I did the Young Producers program, I was like, I'm a producer. Like this is what I am. And from like day one, I was like, I'm a producer. And then I think because I affirmed it, like it just made sense. Like something clicked into place where I was like, this is what I should be doing. And that really helped because I just affirmed it from the beginning. And then that helped me like move on And like in quite a couple of years, I moved on, like did quite a lot of work, and found space for myself. Because I think before I was always trying to fit into spaces, or being like, oh, you kind of fit but you don't. And then I was just like trying to find my place. And I was like, when I found being a producer, because you have that ability to shapeshift, and you don't have to necessarily like be the artist, but you can bring in really cool artists that you love and that can represent what you're trying to portray. It made it easier, I think. So yeah, I think something just clicked into place. So I didn't really have that level of imposter syndrome when I started producing. But obviously, like when you start working for organizations, some of that changes, but I think that's like natural. But when I started to freelance, that's when I really felt like more very confident in it.
Yeah, because I was thinking when you were speaking as well that like it does feel like when you're a producer you create space. That's essentially what you're doing. Like you're creating a community. So like even us creating Infacts, we were basically producers on that. Like facts. Didn't know what I was doing with that, but we knew like who we knew what community we wanted to create, and that also came from us wanting that ourselves.
Do you feel like producing essentially is an extension of the stuff that you're trying to reflect? So in terms of how you reflect it, rather than it all just being on you now, the producing element allows you to get other people, whether it's artists, even other co-producers probably, just to help you like put your vision out and make it realistic or make it realized.
Yeah, I think so, especially if you're an independent producer and you're producing your own work. I think there's real agency in that. For example, like with my show, like Cut the Bakwas, like a huge example. I was like, I'm not seeing enough representation of South Asian artists. So I was like, I felt like that space didn't exist. And so I was like, I'm just going to create it. I'm just going to like get a space, get the artists involved and create it. And it happened. And it was so like uplifting to be able to be like, okay, I don't really know where my community is. But then when I started reaching out, I found it. And actually like there were so many artists that like got in touch with me and like, were having the same experiences and like felt like they weren't represented. So it was just a real moment for us.
I was going to say, with that, do you feel like there's pushback then? So if there's not a lot of representation with you trying to create a new space and a lot of people also feeling underrepresented, is there like any pushback from where you try and make these things happen? Or does it feel like it's quite easy as soon as everyone's on board, as in the people who want to make it happen, it's just like, cool, we're going to make this happen, easy?
I don't necessarily feel like it's pushback, but I feel like organizations don't know how to authentically represent those communities without artists with that specific lived experience. So they can try and create space which represents different artists and their experience, but at the end of the day, they're not going to have the level of nuance that someone like one of us can bring with that community, with our own experiences, with our own like specific lens. So I think like I think that's why it's like that's why I never felt, when you said the question about how you felt about like almost like the imposter syndrome about being a producer, I was like, I think that's where my very unique like lived experience came in and was valuable, because it's like no one's going to produce anything like the way that I produce, because I'm a different person. So it's actually like quite it's like you said, taking your power back, because you can actually like relish in that opportunity of like sharing something different.
Because on that as well, it's like we are very much in a time where it feels like we are celebrating authenticity and we're wanting to celebrate all the different ways people express themselves, like come as themselves and create these spaces where people can be themselves, which I feel like also there are a lot of institutions that are capitalizing off of that, which is like brings you to the question of what makes it tokenistic in that, right? So let's just say there's a massive institution that has it, and maybe they've been hit under fire that you're not representing like the community names. You're in. I ain't gonna say no names, innit? I got bills to pay. But yeah, and they might think, oh my goodness, they'll bring in like a young producer, or not even necessarily young, but like a different producer, like create this event because like we know we need to do it.
That's the thing,
What makes it tokenistic? What's the difference between that being a tokenistic, even if you take away the back context of that, and like it actually being authentic? Like this is like truly at its core about the representation here. And what, like for you as a producer, what's the difference?
I think think it goes behind like the intention of that institution, and like who like this is why I think it's really important for there needs to be like representation across the board and not just at a grassroots level, because and so maybe say for example, I'm just going to say it, like there's like a middle class like white institution that's run like with a board of middle class white members, and they're all like don't really have that nuance or like understanding around a specific community, but want to authentically engage with them. And I think there are ways to authentically engage, but it's about the intention, and it's like about like how do I put it?
Unfiltered. That's how you put it. Go on.
Yeah, it's like, what is the intention behind it? Is it because you want to show that you're doing the work for your organization, or is it because you genuinely want to have an organization which is diverse, which represents like a program that like reflects your audiences? And there's a key difference between those two intentions, right? So like I think when it's very, very clear when that isn't authentic, because then the work comes out different as well. So yeah, I think that's why like representation is super important. And and also there's like not a lot of like, I guess the thing about like people don't know what producers are. So there's not a lot of people getting into like even with me, I fell into producing. I didn't intentionally go to follow a producing route. So I think when you see more people, especially people of color, doing this work, then it gives other people a chance to see that it's a viable career and then want to do it themselves. And then the more that happens, the more we can start to have like more authentic engagement with communities, because like it doesn't make sense if you like want to bring in an artist but then you just have no idea or no nuance around their community, and then it just just doesn't work.
Because on that as well, especially when it comes to events, that's very public facing. That's very much like maybe even like a one-time interaction with that community. And there's been a lot of institutions and organizations that have come under fire where like, well, they present this kind of work, but actually in the core of how that actual institution works or that organization works. Like even for instance, I think it was with Pride, and then they came up with a lot of the racism that was in Pride, and that's what they had to create, like Black Pride as well. And it's like sometimes, especially like maybe the events itself are celebrating this inclusivity, but actually
the way it's
actually being run, when no one's seeing that, it's just like, are the values aligning here? Is this just because, oh, look at us being so great and like celebrating everyone, but really the way you talk to people, like the way you manage that whole event has been very problematic. I guess as a producer, I mean, yeah, you don't have to name names, but have you ever like been in those times where actually this feels really wrong? That like... Yeah.
100%, yeah. But that's because like the system at all levels is failing, even from funders, because the funders, so first of all, like the way things are funded is through like, it's quantitative, so it's like it's all about numbers. It's like you have to...
so bad with those funding applications just because of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like funding applications are like not accessible for like lots of people, but the way that you have to report on funding is like, oh, you have to engage a certain number of people, but it's not actually about the quality of the work or or even like I don't want to name names, but I worked for an institution and they were funded by a foundation, and the foundation had a very specific way that they wanted us to report back to them to like let them know about like the success of the events, and it was all like just like, okay, how many people did you engage? It's not about the quality or the value behind it. It's just about like, we want to see, we're giving you an opportunity to basically just lie about how good it was because of the way it's like structured. So like at all levels it's failing.
How would you lie about it in that situation though? Would it be like, you just fudge the numbers basically? Yeah,
basically.
Right. But then for them that's good enough, as long as, I'm not saying you have, obviously.
I haven't,
of course,
but I know that.
Of course. But that's how people could get away with it. They could say, oh, do you know what? There were, their target's 1,000. They said, yeah, we had 990 people that turned up. But how, because no one's going to be there to check the ticket, like how do you get away with that is kind of what I'm thinking.
Because it's just like a form that you fill in.
Oh, so you can write anything you want?
I mean, you're not supposed to, but
But hypothetically, a bad producer, someone who's not got the morals or integrity that you do, could just write anything they want.
Basically. But then it's like, the thing is, there's not really accountability to check. Like, for example, again, not naming names, but like, for example, I worked on a program, and then like lots of the teachers had complained about, so it was a dance program, but lots of the teachers had complained about the management of like how that program was run. But like that was not taken up to a higher level in terms of like the accountability. So like, even so, what was being reported was like the numbers of what was delivered, but actually not the experience of all of those people at a grassroots level who'd had like struggled with the management of that program. So like there's ways, there's loopholes. So.
Yeah. So I've got 2 questions. Firstly, especially with producing, it is about also like getting the money to be able to fund, to pay the artists and whatever. How important is it sometimes? Because even I felt like this, like, okay, we might get this money from a very problematic institution, but actually the way we're going to use their money is almost in a way of being like an activist and being like, screw you, we're going to get your money. I know you actually don't even stand for this stuff, but as a producer, I almost feel a bit removed that I could be like, we're going to do it. Like we're going to make this event, create this space, whatever, pay these artists. Yeah. But then sometimes from the outside in, you can be like, how? But you're funded by this very problematic institution. How do you, like, where's that balance in, like, being like almost like, F you, we're going to take your money and do whatever, to also like, we're actually funded by this very problematic.
I got an opinion on this as well.
It's hard because then even with funders, there's stipulations around that funding. Like, what do you need to feed back to them, and like what they want from, like, people don't just give you money for free. They obviously want something back from it. So...
Do they always though? I thought some funders, it's just an investment. Like, it's literally just a grant sometimes.
As in, well, it might not necessarily be like if it's like a government funded grant or something, but it also needs to not necessarily like financially given back, but is in a sense like it's their reputation, isn't it? Like there's always there's always an exchange.
Look at us, this is what we're doing.
There's always an exchange that happens with funders, even whether it's not like if it's an invisible exchange. But I think personally, if there were other funding bodies that replicated the values of more of our community's work, that would be obviously a preference. But at the moment, like, it's all about power, isn't it? And like who holds that power.
That's the thing. Because a lot of these funding circles, it's like a boys' club. Unfortunately,
exactly.
The money is held by a small portion of people, but it's a lot of money. And I don't know. I feel like where we are, looking for ethical money, especially depending on how much you're looking for. If it's a small amount, you definitely should be able to, but if it's larger amounts, looking for ethical money is very difficult in the system that we have. Like, there's always, or almost always, going to be that byproduct of, I know what you have done over here in the world, or what you might do here in terms of your employees, or what you might do here in terms of how you use your money generally. But I think, kind of what you said, if you know your intention is cool, as soon as I have this, whatever it is, let's call it £10,000, whatever, I know that I'm doing this to ensure there's some sort of change. Even like, I can't affect maybe how your organization runs, but I can affect how people perceive this whole demographic or this whole institution or whatever it might be. So for me personally, I'm just like, get it and make a change.
In that, go on.
I was going to say, that's where it becomes conflicting, because you know that's when it does become a bit tokenistic. If they benefit off your work and you're actually the one putting in the work and the labour to get and to support that group of people, those artists or whatever, but actually that funder or that institution is benefiting off of you, and like really on the grand scale of things, what they're giving you is not a lot.
Yeah.
Now my second question, which now turned into, I've got 2 more questions. So my second question now is, at what point, because obviously institutions, they can change. It takes a very, very long time, and especially the time that we have been through, where there have been protests and almost like people have been forced to like look in and be like, okay, we've been doing this wrong. Sorry, mate, we're gonna have to like sort this one out. The jig's up, whatever. at one point do we kind of go, do you know what? Yeah, they were like that, but they are trying to make a change. And what does that actually feel like to work with an organisation where, yes, you were problematic, but I can genuinely feel that you're actually trying to learn and change.
Yeah.
Like, how do you spot that from someone that's just trying to benefit off of it and someone that, like an organisation that's actually trying to change?
I think it comes down to that thing of authenticity again, doesn't it? It's like how willing, are they saying everything that you want to hear on paper, but are they actually holding themselves accountable? Are they willing to learn? Are they willing to change? Are they willing to make space for new leaders? I think a lot of it comes down to leadership as well. And because like it might be like one person that changes the trajectory of an organization based off like their leadership, because there's always going to be people that are like they stop progress, they're enemies of progress. And if they're stuck in those positions and they're not allowing the change to happen, then you're going to hit that roadblock. But that's why we need leaders of our fields. We need more people like us that kind of come up eventually and like take over those buildings.
Facts. Do you feel like you're ever able to have like negotiations basically with these institutions as well? Because if you are, I don't know, let's just say X institution's been around for hundreds of years or whatever, and in their minds they've got this way of being and doing. You as a new individual, and you're an independent creative producer, etc., do you feel like you're able to have a negotiation to say, look, yes, you've got the money and you've got the reputation, but you actually need me in order to actually enact some sort of change? Do you feel confident in being able to do that?
I think I do now, but I didn't before when I started producing. But I think you really have to be intentional about putting yourselves in those spaces. And it does take a lot out of you as well, because like we were talking about, like we've had like conversations around like racism at our workplace, and it's hard being the person of color having to speak on it all the time.
Everyone.
Yeah, and that comes with like a lot of emotional baggage, and like it's a lot. But and also you feel like I don't want to have to be that person speaking on it all the time. But also if I wasn't there, then who would? So you have to sometimes position yourselves in those places, or be like more strategic, or like where can you get yourself on boards? Like I'm a trustee for a youth charity on a board. I'm like the co-chair for the race network at the City of London. So
that's a big thing as well. Like big thing.
It's a lot, but it's like you have to position yourselves in those places, because that's the only way that you're gonna be heard, because they're not gonna hear you from being like sitting on your own being quiet. So I think it does come down to confidence and like remembering that. I think when I started producing, I was fortunate to have like some good mentors, and like I think something that stuck with me is like you deserve a seat at the table, like telling yourself that and remembering that, because like those tables have been filled with the same people like for years and years and years. So for things to shake up, you've got to like demand your space and know that you deserve it.
No,
because even with that, I was thinking to myself as well that like, let's just say now, if we look at festivals, for instance, like we all love festivals, loads of money's made from festivals and generated through festivals, and let's just say we've got our typical festivals that have been running for time. I don't really know who's behind all of this, but I'm thinking 9 times out of 10 is majority white people that are doing it, but it might be with a load of hip hop artists or black artists that are leading on it. Obviously that changes who's coming and the crowds and the community that's bringing. And then I think to myself, and I'm not going to name names of like particular festivals that have been created where they're very much created like by black people, but it's been an absolute shambles.
I think we know where you might be alluding to,
and you know, and I do think to myself though, but then we have to also think about like who's been holding this power and almost expertise for so long that like they have all the resources in place to make sure that it is lit and everything's under control. Whereas now you might have another organization that is to the core, yes, it is representing like who's creating it to who's performing it is representing, but the execution is just a bit of a mess. Where that does sometimes lead us, which is a kind of two questions here. Like one, how almost, I guess, what's the word should I use? How should we be a bit more kind to these organizations that maybe, because they haven't been running for time, they have just popped up in the last couple of years and it is a mess, and they're not going to maybe be on the same standards as other ones. So that's one question, like how kind we should be there. Second question is also though, like, how do we actually create that change? Do we go off and make our own organizations where it is just us doing it, or do we go into these institutions, like you said, and pull up a seat at the table and try and change it there? And where's the pros and cons in that? Because like you said, it's mentally exhausting to be in these institutions where you're constantly almost having to prove your worth and prove, no, actually, it's not working what you're trying to do. For one, there's value in us. There's value in our audiences. Or go over here where now we're gonna have to really work from the ground up.
See that? I think because it's like an or. I think that's the thing that holds us back. When really it's like it's not Malcolm or
both.
Martin. It's both. Yeah. I think you have to do both, because when it made me think about countries. Like when we think about how young a lot of what ex-Commonwealth countries or colonized countries are, and how, I don't know, 60 years, a lot of them, let's say Nigeria, for instance, 60 years. You look at America, it's been independent for however many hundreds of years now. Still a mess. Still trying to get it right. And like, they're still trying to get it right. So when I see or hear, there's corruption in Africa and Asia and all this stuff, I'm like, they're really new. They're still learning. And it's the same thing with produced events. Like, we're not naming names, so we won't say names, but they're gonna get it wrong. Yeah, exactly. Beep will get it wrong initially.
There's been a lot already.
They will get it wrong, but it might be the first one. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like we do have to be kind, but in being honest and being firm, that's also being kind. Like, if you say, yo, this event was whack, bro. This is what you can do to make it better.
Sound was whack.
Or sis, like,
the
stop
crowd
that.
safety.
But that's
you know what though? I think there's a level of kindness, because you're also putting people at, like, you're taking people's money. You're also putting people
So that's what you have to be firm with it. Like, this is what you have to improve on as well. It's not just like, okay, you're one of us, so it's all right. Don't worry. Did it? It's like, no, bro or sis, we need this to work. We want this to work as well. So these are the things you have to listen to us in it, because if you keep making the same mistakes, then you're not gonna be able to do it. We're not gonna have anything that represents us, and we're just gonna be left in the mud.
When we set up new programs or new events and things with our communities, we need to remember that we have to learn from like what's come before. So I think what I found is that you've seen this work happen, but then also people are replicating the same systems of oppression that they're trying to get away from, because everyone's in this rat race where they're in survival mode. They're just trying to get money. They're trying to get success. So then what happens is they end up replicating these exact systems that we're trying to get away from. So it's like you have to be really intentional from the ground up to like set up these things in a way that like is fruitful for your community, because otherwise it's just gonna do the same thing. We almost need to decolonize the ways that we've been working.
Point, because it's not necessarily the personnel, it's actually the systems. Because as you said, if we do exactly what other people have been doing, in like 10 years we're just going to look and be like, yo, but you lot are exactly the same as the people who oppressed us before. And it's like, how do you enact that change then? Is it by having really innovative people or producers who say, cool, so this is how it was, now this is how it's going to look, like a whole different landscape of what events might look like or anything like that?
I think, and this is why I say that producing is a skill. It's not just like throwing an event together. You have to actually think intentionally about what you're delivering, and like spend time like teasing it out, and like thinking about like the legacy of a project, and like not just delivering like something that's going to happen on the day and that be it. Like you have to like there's a lot that goes behind producing that I think people don't see. And that's like why you see all these festivals and you're like, you can't just have any guy producing a festival like with no skill.
Exactly. It's because like you said, you can't just be now, instead of just having a bunch of white people in that space, just have maybe a bunch of like black people or Asian people, but it's with the same system. So then it's just still like just all the same problems. What I wanted to ask though is
I have one more question.
What
go on.
Okay, let's see if we can fit into. What would you really like in terms of the event world and the event industry and producing events? What is a change that you'd really like to see that you just feel like would almost radicalize just this and the big words of us like just changing how the current state that we're in?
That's a big one. I think the funding thing is a key thing, because I think we need to. Because I think the way things are funded and the way people like try and get money for projects, it like makes us stuck in this rat race. So I think if there was like some really like innovative like funding models from that end, then that's gonna like change the trajectory of like how we like produce work. Because I think at the moment we think about producing really exciting, innovative things, but we don't think about the whole like lifeline of something. So I think, yeah, definitely in terms of like who's funding the work, what are their values, and like there being like a whole accountability chain for like how things work. Because at the moment it's just like the accountability sits with that particular project and not anything surrounding that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
that's really important.
The money, basically, where we're getting the money.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess almost how
from?
do you prove to them that the money was valuable? Because I guess they're just looking at numbers. They're not really looking at impact. Exactly. And we speak a lot about in our department, like how do you measure impact? Because right now, currently, in the way things are, the way you measure impact is like how many people came. Yeah. Oh, how many black people did we have? How many Asian people did we have? How many, like, but it's about what did those people take from that? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's, and like, what's the what did they do after? What did they go on and do? How did that impact their actual lives? Did they have a change in attitudes and a change in perspectives? Or did they just come to an event for 2 hours, have a good time, leave, think, forgot about it? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. By next week, it's done.
Exactly.
Like, your question. My last question was, what is like your unique imprint that you put onto your events as a producer?
That's blah.
Yeah, so people know I'm at a Divya Satwani event.
It's hard to say. I think just the level of care and I put into my work, and just I think it helps to have come from an artistic background and like be an artist and then be a producer, because I have that understanding. So there's that, and also I think just like bringing my own lived experience and authenticity into like anything that I do, and I try and be authentic in anything that I deliver, and put a lot of care behind what I deliver. So which
I can vouch for that.
No, I've been to a couple of your events as well, so I see it.
Yeah, exactly, and I know how you work, and just the conversations you have outside of when you're programming and stuff, and how careful you are in like making sure everyone feels valued and communicating. But also, do you feel like sometimes that's also at the detriment of yourself sometimes, where do you feel like maybe you're not taking care of yourself because you're trying to be so let me make sure everyone else is okay, but I'm really getting trampled on here?
Yeah, that's something I've had to manage, because I'm definitely a big empath. I'm definitely a giver, and like that's probably why I got into producing in the first place, because it is about relationships and stuff. But that's something that I have had to manage, like especially when you get invested in like working with young people, working in a project, and like really caring about that group of people, then like you have to manage the boundaries of that, and like making sure you look after yourself as well, because it's like some of it, when it's not when it's a project with a community group, it's like emotional work as well as just like delivering a project.
Exactly. And then a big difference of that anyway, when you're doing community work, you can't just be like almost extracting from that community group when it's like really traumatic experiences. This is great. Talk about your homelessness.
Go more
do you know what I mean? But there's no holistic support around it. You have to go in almost wanting to give parts of yourself.
And 100% for you as well. If you're taking on a lot of these different situations as well, then you'll obviously need some sort of support going through that as well.
Yeah, because we talk a lot about this like in our work, like how to create generative spaces that aren't extractive of a particular group, and that should count for everyone as well, I guess, as a producer as well. So that's something to consider.
There you go. That's the innovative one that you're gonna have. So
there we are. I feel like I
know we got rushed out of here.
We're getting rushed out of the room, man. It's our fault for talking too much about the world ending in 1 week before. But let's round this up by thank you very much for coming
through and just being so open and transparent about production, your journey so far and everything. Like, it's been proper sick.
And like if someone watched this right now, I was like, I need to book Divya as a producer. Where do they go?
Well, I'm actually fully booked.
Yeah, she's booked and she's busy.
Yes, that's the response.
But where can people find out more just about you, and if they've got that eye on you, maybe in a few years?
Do you know what? I need to set up my website.
Okay.
But I do have social media at Divya Dancer on Instagram and at Divya Dancer _ on Twitter. Although that's much more work vibes. I'm more on Instagram, so follow me on there.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, that's me.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We don't even have time to know.
No, in facts, no opinion. Oh, you had a quick fact.
Yeah, that basically there's no
outside.
tequila in Desperado.
Jeez, there we go. Wait.
It's tequila flavoured. There's no actual tequila in it. I thought everyone knew that, but obviously
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's no tequila in it.
Yeah, I know.
It's cheeky.
We've been cheating ourselves this whole time.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just tequila flavoured.
dead.
But another fact about that, though, really quickly about tequila, is tequila is more about the region that it's made in. So I think it's made from, I can't remember what the plant or whatever it's made from, but it has to be made in that region that's called tequila for it to be called tequila.
So like champagne almost.
Kind of. And if it's made outside of that region, it can't be called tequila. Because I think in Mexico, it's everywhere, this plant. I think it's the agave, I don't know how to say it.
No idea.
So this is kind of like a fact, but do a bit more research. But it's more about the place that it's made in or grown in, that it can only be called tequila. And everywhere else is called something else.
Now I'm thinking about them.
Tequila shots yesterday.
Just thinking about them now, like, oh my God, it's come from a certain... Yeah, nice, thank you. Thank you for that.
But yeah, we're going to actually get rushed in a minute.
We're going to come out of here. So yeah, thank you, Divya, so much for everything. Big up you.
Yeah, big up you. Big up New Motion. Big up the Qube.
And we out.
My intuition's telling me I'll never listen to myself. I should probably listen to myself. That position I was in, if I'd have listened, maybe I could help.